Going on YouTube, Cloverbells here back with another Scarlet Violet video, and today we're going to be recapping the recent Victory Road June challenge from this past weekend. So this was their second June challenge, and they got another one this upcoming weekend. So if you're still looking to get some Regulation I practice, especially if you're going to Worlds, definitely be sure to join that. But this one had a pretty good turnout. Again, 200 plus players. They always get a really good turnout. They have prize pools, so no question about that. And, just with all of this is all like post-NAIC stuff. So we're going to be looking at all these teams. And also we're going to be looking at usage rates just to see where we are right now within the Regulation I meta post-NAIC pre-Worlds. Of course, that's what we're looking at right now. Just to see how the meta can adapt and change, in this quote-unquote downtime, right? Because there's no more regionals for that. So it's very interesting to see what people are going to be looking for and what they're going to be doing with all this time that they have on their hands. And obviously one thing to do is to join some of these big tours like the VR June challenge, and just to test some new ideas that maybe you might be looking at, right? And what better way than to get all this practice than with some of the best players, especially when it's a large turnout like this. So we're gonna look at the usage rates, and then of course we're gonna look at the teams, and we're gonna make something out of all of this tour, and just summarize everything, right? So let's go on to it. Take a look at usage rate first for the restricted pairings here, and the 5 that you see there, the first 5 is without a doubt the best 5 of the format here, and it has been for quite some time now, and I think it'll continue to be that way leading up until Worlds. What's really going to make all the difference is the supporting cast that you build around these restricted pairings. That's what's really going to make all the difference here. But at the very least, just in terms of the pairings themselves, this is without a doubt the best 5 here. So number 1 here in terms of day 1, Calyrex-Shadow Rider, Zamazenta, of course. Decent conversion rate there, from day 1 to day 2, 20 to 25%. 12 Calyrex-Shadow Rider, Zamazenta teams in day 2. Then followed up with Miraidon and the Ice Rider there. More or less the same, just staying roughly around the 13th percentile there. And then you've got Miraidon, Zamazenta. This is like one of the more hotter, newer archetypes that is rising, slowly. And then you have it here at 10% there. But then you've got Lunala, Miraidon here at 15% in day 2. Good conversion rate there. Again, sometimes you can go with the Calm Mind build, with the Rillaboom. Or you can just simply go with the Electric Seed, Wyguard, Turkum support. I think both builds are very good, depending on how you want to use the pairing. But either way, it's still within the top 5 usage here. And then after that, you've got Shadow Rider, Koraidon over here. I feel like, besides the 1 slot there, with Shadow Rider, Zamazenta, 2 through 5 can flip-flop at any time. Right? That's just how I feel. It really just depends on, what you're playing, when you're playing, and who you play against, and the matchups you pull, right? But, 2 through 5 can flip-flop because they're all good, solid teams that we've seen thus far, especially the more common builds. It just depends on how you pilot it. But, with the Shadow Rider, Koraidon, and, just the strong ghost type, the strong fighting type there, sometimes they'll go with the Galarian Wheezing idea, but you don't have to go with the Galarian Wheezing idea. Just the partners that you have with Koraidon are also pretty good partners with Shadow Rider, so there's some decent synergy there as well. But then as you look through 6 through 10, Kyogre, Ice Rider, again, that's also an archetype, within like the B tier that can also, make some noise. We've seen some results already from previous regionals, so you were on the outside looking in, but it can make some noise there. Then you've got Lunala, Koraidon. Again, sometimes not as good as the Shadow Rider, Koraidon, but can definitely still do a whole lot, especially if you go with the the Brute Bond Ursaluna route. I feel like that's also a very standard core that you can use that's still like relatively good. And then you've got the Miraidon Terapagos idea. Okay, we first saw this, a couple of weeks ago. And they like to use the Sinistcha for these builds, again just because Sinistcha has the potential. Oh my goodness, look at this ad over here. But the Sinistcha has the idea just to be able to get the Terapagos back to full HP, right? And then you just have your ability again, and then you have Trick Room support, and then you are a ghost type with redirection support. So that means if you want to body press, or if you want to click the close combat button or collision course into the Terapagos, the Sinistcha is able to redirect that, and it gets whiffed there, right? and then Miraidon just does Miraidon things, right? Originally, you might think it has like a little bit of anti-synergy because when you tear the Terrapagos, you're blowing up your own terrain, but it works out well if you have this Sinister build idea there. Then you've got Swordfish there at number 9 there. Again, you know, there have been some good builds, especially like the Roaring Moon idea, as opposed to something like Tornadus, but even then, it's still within the B tier, again, on the outside looking in more or less, but you can win a regional with it. You can definitely win a big tournament, as we have seen before. And then over here, you've got Miraidon and Miraidon and the Shadow Rider, two very strong offensive restricteds, but you know, no representation in day 2 whatsoever here. So really, we're on the first 5 here. You know, this is pretty standard at this point. You know, where we are heading towards the end of June, heading into July here. Now, it just what's really going to make all the difference, like I said already, is the partners that you surround these restricted pairings with. So let's take a look at some of those partners. So now let's look at the restricted. Let's look at the usage stats of the non-restricted pairings. All right, in terms of the usage rates for the non-restricteds, as expected here, you've got Instant, Rillaboom, and Urshifu at 1, 2, and 3. Fire, Water, Grass Boys are always going to stay that way. However, remember, we did just see Chien-Pao take second in terms of usage rates at the recent regional there. So this is still like no surprise in all honesty. Then you've got Raging Bolt and Chien-Pao at 4 and 5. Of course, Bulk Beam coverage, very, very useful in VGC. So no surprise to see them that high as well. Then you've got Volcarona at number 6. Again, Volk, you know, the two surprise picks that are rising right now that I guess aren't really a surprise is Volcarona and the Paint Dog, Smeargle, which we just featured in our last video, but more on Smeargle in a second. Volcarona, very useful against stuff like Zamazenta. Again, with so much more Shadow Rider Zamazenta teams, Volcarona all of a sudden has a pretty good way of dealing with them, just because, again, the bug fire typing resists Zamazenta's stabs, and then at the same time, you know, if you got the Quiver Dance set, you can wall out the Shadow Rider and just kind of neuter it a little bit with the Bug Buzz. Struggle Bug, I should say, and then the Fiery Dance, you know, you can just start boosting your special attack, and then all of a sudden, the Volcarona becomes the endgame win condition, right? Then you've got Iron Hands here at number 7. Again, Iron Hands very splashable on pretty much every kind of team, especially with Miraidon. You're getting the Quark Drive attack boost there, Fake Out Pressure, Drain, Punch, Low Kick does 50% to Ice Rider, of course. Very, very good mod to have, especially in the Trick Room games. So, speaking of Trick Room games, Amoonguss also fulfilling that role there at number 8. Good usage there. Again, you can still be useful in a Miraidon format, just because if you're running Rillaboom at the same time with Amoonguss, you can change terrain and then click Spore on that very same turn, right? Whimsicott and Grimmsnarl there, the two Prankster Mons at 9 and 10 there. One provides Tailwind support with Fake Tears support, you know, with the Shadow Riders and the Terrapagos. Fake Tears is a rising tech move on Whimsicott. You still have the idea for Encore, of course. Then you've got Grimmsnarl screens, Thunderwave hacks. One Para Hacks is all you need to win a set sometimes. Then you have the option for, you know, Spirit Break, Foul Play damage. Grimmsnarl really good, especially with Calyrex Rider screens. So just be mindful of that. Then you've got Ogerpon here at 11, and then Fluttermane dipping all the way down to number 12, just 2% in day 2. One team with Fluttermane there. Again, Icy Wind and Thunderwave support, of course. Then you've got Moonblast and Shadow Ball there. But the Fluttermane, you know, just continues to drop a little bit in usage there. And then, of course, the Paint Dog, which did sneak in the top 12 graphic in the last regional there at number 12 there. But you've got it here at 13th place here. And people are finally realizing just how good this thing is, especially with the Shadow Rider Zamazenta teams. But that is not the only thing that it can be limited to, and we're going to preview some of those other teams in a second there. But of course, you've got 5 of the best moves available to you. You've got Spore, you've got Fake Out, you've got Follow Me, and you've got Wide Guard, right? And if you are not a Zamazenta, or if you have Zamazenta, then you can drop the Wide Guard and just go for Decorate plays. You can decorate your Shadow Rider, decorate your Ice Rider especially, and decorate your Kyogres for that matter. Again, you know, before we used to only see Smeargle on those hard Trick Room teams, right? Where you just had like the Ice Rider, the Indeedee stuff. So here, if I just put that on the screen real quick, Calyrex Ice Rider. Oh my goodness, I cannot type. All right, then you've got the Indeedee over here, and then you've got the Smeargle, okay, and then after this, then you sometimes you'll go with like Lunala over here just for like the expanding force shenanigans, and then after this you'll go with Torkoal with the eruption plays, right? And this is usually where you saw Smeargle originally, but then people started to pick up on what it can actually really do, and then now you started to splash on Smeargle onto those Shadow Rider Zamazenta teams, and now all of a sudden you're just faking out and redirecting for the nasty plot setup, and then after that you can decorate your own Shadow Rider potentially there, and it just causes way too much damage there. So good on Smeargle here to be able to support, but not only just the hard Trick Room teams, but the other teams in general there. So honestly, not a whole lot has really changed since the last regional. In fact, this is just, you know, post-regional big tournament here, right, where you're just capitalizing on the results there. The ground types are still pretty important here. Like Landorus Incarnate is still finding its way, especially Ursaluna as well, just because, again, with the ground and normal typing that Ursaluna can give you, you can wall out the Shadow Riders and then put pressure onto something like a Zamazenta or the Miraidon Iron Hands teams, especially in Trick Room. And then after this, look, you still got Galarian Weezing over there at 20th place there, 8% usage. There are 4 teams there with it. So it does have a niche. Again, just being able to remove abilities is very, very important there. Tornadus, not as valuable as the Whimsicott and the Grimmsnarl if you are going to go the Prankster route. Of course, Tailwind and Rain Dance to enable Urshifu is relatively useful. Some Kyogre's teams are still using this. Some Calyrex-Shadow Rider teams are also still using Tornadus. Again, just flying coverage is still like pretty good, especially when you have to click a flying move against Rillaboom, Amoonguss, Volcarona, okay, and the Ogre Ponds, the Brute Bonnets, right? These are all things that, you know, Tornadus can do relatively well against. But, you know, just even like the, well, that's it for like Tornadus, but looking at some of these other, you know, placements for these monsters, the Indeedee is also relatively good. Again, with the terrain control, speed advantage, you know, with Trick Room, of course, very useful there. Being able to remove Miraidon's terrain is important. Brute Bonnet, of course, having some usage there with the Koraidon teams. And then, like we said, Sinistcha with those Terapagos Miraidon teams there. And then another ground type, again, the Iron Treads here, usually on those Miraidon teams as well. Then you've got Roaring Moon, you know, with the Kyogre stuff, being able to provide Tailwind support and dark coverage, along with flying coverage for the Ogre Ponds, the Rillabooms, the Amongus's, and whatnot, right? And then after this, some seldom niches here for Clefairy, Wellspring, Ogre Pond. There were 2 in day 2, by the way. A Ditto and then the Iron Jugulis here. But all in all, I would say like the top 20 is as expected here. And with, again, notable rises to Smeargle, Chien-Pao, of course, and Raging Bolt is still like very, very good. Raging Bolt now proving a little bit better usage than Iron Hands just because of the priority moves that it has and the coverage that it can give you with, you know, just these hard-hitting Thunderbolts, the Draco Meteor Nuke, of course. But yeah, so you know, these are great partners to the Dual Restricted. So now let's see what kind of teams these are on as we preview the top 8 over here, you know, from the tournament. All right, so first place was claimed by Mo Ling over here. Again, pretty good prize, right? $1,125, pretty. And then, you know, this is like one of the better Zamazenta Miraidon teams right now. I think this is even one of our rentals. Not like our rental, but like the 6 that is really good with this archetype right now. So if we just preview it, again, you got Miraidon, Zamazenta, Grimmsnarl here. Then you add Chien-Pao to help Zamazenta do a little bit more damage here. And it is just screens, Spirit Break, and T-Wave for the Grimmsnarl here. Volcarona, like we said here, can be your win con. Leftovers here with Terra Dragon. Quiver Dance set. If you go Timid and you go for 154 speed, you're able to just outspeed everything, especially the Choice Scarf Chiyus. And then just kind of go from there, right? Struggle Bug and Flamethrower are good stat moves here. Iron Hands, of course, really good here with Grimmsnarl Screens and Miraidon. Very, very solid squad. Again, you've got Wide Guard support to help Miraidon survive against stuff like Glacial Lance. Obviously, the Astro Barrage check here. Just Wide Guard in general is just really good in regulationI. But you got all you need here, right? You got your immediate damage here with Miraidon. You've got setup here with Volcarona. and then you've got Fake Out and Screens here. So all in all, a pretty good squad. Then edging out Christopher Hahn here takes in second place there. There's the Shadow Rider Miraidon idea here. Again, the strong fighting type with the ghost type, able to really put pressure on the dark types that want to come to these Shadow Rider games. Walking Wake, good partner here with Miraidon that is slowly rising here, especially the AV set with Snarl. Weather Ball, nice tech there. Again, can be useful also if they want to bring in the rain, you know, whether it be like Tornadus Rain Dance or Kyogre teams. Incin Amoonguss, again, classic VGC defensive backbone here, right? Fake Out, Intimidate, and Redirection support here. And then the Iron Treads is also relatively useful into the Miraidon matchup here. So all in all, good solid squad here. And then as we keep going down the list here, third place here from Adam Colson. He's got the Ogerpon Wellspring over here. And he's going with the Miraidon Ice Rider idea. Again, the classic core with Ice Rider, Miraidon, Ferrograph, Iron Hands. And then the last two slots is up for grabs here. He's going with the Urshifu and the Wellspring Ogerpon, as opposed to maybe the Cornerstone or the Heartflame, right? Very interesting choice there. But, you know, it still works out here. And again, just relatively standard sets here. No crazy stuff here. No Leech Seed here. Just, you know, even the Terras are also like relatively standard there. So shout outs to Adam. Good job here. Then we've got Lev over here, right, from Canada. He's got the Lunala Miraidon team here, right? And again, this is not Calm Mind. Just by looking at the composition, without even looking at the sets here, you know this is just going to be Electric Siege Trick Room set. There's no Rillaboom. There's no Fake Out Pressure to enable the Calm Mind setup here. So this is just strictly a supportive Lunala, which we saw can still do relatively well. You know, again, the recent regional, right? Then after that, you've got the Ursaluna. Of course, Wide Guard Earthquake is still a very, very strong combination in Regulation I. You block the other team's spread moves, you protect yourself from damage, and you get to deal damage again with Earthquake. And when you have Flame or Guts activated, it just does so much here, right? Chiyu, Miraidon, Lunala, special attack damage, good pressure here. Whimsicott, very standard team, you know, nothing too crazy there as well. Louis Mark, all right, this is your typical Calyrex-Shadow Rider balance idea. No, wait, that's not it. Yeah, this is it right here. Okay. Instant Rillaboom, Urshifu. Give me the Fire, Water, Grass boys. Give me the Heartflame Ogerpon here. So double Fake Out Redirection to set up the nasty plot. No Smeargle here. Right? So still pretty good. Then down here, Justin Burms here. 6th place there. There's the Landers. Again, right here with Whimsicott. Oh, we've got, oh, look at that. We've got Tickle on the Whimsicott. There's your tech. Right? Tickle's a pretty cool move there. Scarf Miraidon with Snarl. Again, just not wanting to play the speed tie game. So now we're just going with Choice Scarf here. And then just Instant here just to be able to Fake Out Trick Room. Obviously, this is the Leech Seed set. And then Landers here with Sandsear Storm. Earth Power. So, okay, very standard set there. Pretty good into the Miraidon matchup. I like it. Then right here, Marcus Hung. Right? It's just Calyrex-Shadow Rider Zamazenta with the Tornadus, with the Smeargle, with the Rillaboom, with the Raging Bolt. This looks like the team that we just used from Japan Nats, right? So again, relatively standard stuff. You know what the Smeargle can do here. You can drop Wide Guard on the Smeargle because you got Wide Guard on Zamazenta. You're opting for Decorate here to be able to decorate the Shadow Rider, of course. Then we've got Rene with a Groudon Screens team here. Look at this. Groudon, Instant, Grimmstar, a little bit more reminiscent of the Rinya Sun core back in Sword and Shield. Then we've got Miraidon, Volcarona, and the Ditto here. So another Groudon team, you know, making a splash here, right? We just featured 2 Groudon teams on the channel previously. And again, Groudon with Brick Break, which is, I think, my favorite tech on Groudon, just to be able to remove screens and also just put a little bit of pressure onto the Terrapagos there. I think makes a lot of sense there. And here we go, Volcarona screens, win condition here. Going for Quiver Dance, Flamethrower, Struggle Bug yet again. Ditto, again, just being able to copy the Ice Rider restricted and just go from there, right? So I like this. You have ways of dealing with Ice Rider just with Grimmsnarl and Instant altogether. Like it a lot. So quite the interesting top 8 here. Very diverse, if you ask me. Lots of different ways to play different squads here. But again, it just shows you, you know, we're a little bit wide open here. How many Shadow Riders we got? We got 3 Shadow Rider teams, But again, they're all relatively different just because of how you're playing them. Look, this is Shadow Rider Miraidon. You've got two Shadow Rider Zamazenta teams, but look at their composition, right? Smeargle, Raging Bolt, and Tornado is very different from Incin, Urshifu, and Ogerpon Hardfang there, right? So how you support your restricteds, even if you choose the same pairing, makes all the difference. Because it affects how you play the team if you have different options next to your core, right? Even this one, right, with Adam Coulson, like Miraidon Calyrex team, like look how different that looks from Justin Burns' team over here, right? So besides that, and besides the Urshifu, everything else is relatively different, right? You got the Ogerpon, you know, the water one, the Wellspring Ogerpon, Furgraph, and then the Iron Hands over here, as opposed to Justin Burns over here, who's just rocking Incin, Whimsicott, and the Landorus over here. One has Tailwind, one doesn't. One has two Trick Room Centers, one has a way to deal with priority, and one has a Redirector, right, with the Ogerpon here, right? So again, this is what I'm getting at, right? So hopefully you understand just how team composition makes a big difference in how you surround your restricted pairings there, because that's really what's going to separate these teams as we get closer to Worlds, right? I don't think the 5 restricted pairings are going to change all that much. I think this is it, right? But again, like I showed you, what's really going to matter is how you support the two, okay? So now let's look at some other interesting teams there, and let's see if we can pinpoint anything that looks a little bit more unique as opposed to what we've seen already. All right, so right away, we've seen some familiar teams from previous regional results that are also doing relatively well here, even though they're outside the top 8. So look at the Kyogre teams here. One is Kyogre Zamazenta, right? And the other one is Swordfish here. So let's look at Nicholas's team over here. It's Choice Scarf Annihilate with Coaching, right? And Final Gambit here. Coaching is pretty interesting, right? Because again, you can boost Zamazenta's damage. You can even boost your own Chien-Pao, even Roaring Moon here, right? So it's quite interesting when you think about it. And then, of course, Kyogre just loves the Roaring Moon Amoonguss Chien-Pao core. And then the steel type of choice was the Zamazenta as opposed to Zacian here, which is fine, right? Amoonguss gives you something to play in Trick Room. Chien-Pao helps Zamazenta and even Roaring Moon do a little bit more damage. Good at removing terrain with Ice Spinner here. Crunch and Sucker Punch. Again, dropping the Sacred Sword idea because, again, you do have Zamazenta. You even have an Annihilate here, so no need for the fighting coverage there. Crunch is much more valuable just because sometimes you can play around Sucker Punch and you don't want that to only be your Dark Maya move of choice on the Chien-Pao there, right? So that's pretty cool. Then we'll look at Key and Camel, which of course has been running Swordfish for months, right? You know, I would say maybe like half a year, dating back to Regulation G, right? So this is no surprise here. Very standard Key and Campbell Swordfish team there. Then we look at a couple of Miraidon Lunala teams here, right? So again, you see how they're composed, right? Right away, I can tell you just with the Rillaboom here and the Grimmsnarl and the Incin, this is definitely Calm Mind Lunala here. Do you have leftovers? Let's see. Yes, you do. And there's the Calm Mind as confirmed. Very familiar build here. Again, Ogerpon Wellspring. So you got double fake out here with screens and redirection. All the tools you need to be able to set up this Calm Mind. Scarf Miraidon, again, we just saw that already. But again, Fede Campo's team is the more traditional way with the Wyguard, Trick Room, Electric Seed support. This team we've already seen just because, again, we've seen Fede play and win, right? Then this is the Miraidon Terapagos idea that we were speaking about earlier with Sinistra here. Look at the Pagos here with Electric Seed, Calm Mind set up here. This is AV Miraidon with Snarl. Then you've got the Iron Treads here, which can do relatively well with Miraidon here. Great coverage here. Great into the mirror, of course. And then Urshifu with the Choice Scarf Rain Dance idea. I've seen this a couple of times, especially on Showdown Ladder. This is quite interesting when you think about it. But I don't know how useful this tech is. I understand it, obviously, but we'll see if that starts to pick up a little bit as we get closer here. Santiago Molina here. This is, again, Calyrex Ice Rider Miraidon with Furgraph Iron Hands core, Instant Iron Treads here. Still very standard. Oh, there we go. We've got Shadow Rider Zamazenta again, but completely different supporting cast that we are showing you now than you didn't see before. Look at this. First of all, we've got Clefairy here with Follow Me, right? With Friend Guard support. That's something Smeargle can't do, obviously, right? But you also have the Iron Jugulus here that can give you Tailwind and the Snarl support. So the Dark type coverage is also pretty good here, right? Very useful against Miraidons and other Shadow Riders and other Kyogre teams for that matter. Rillaboom Minton, relatively standard here. You've got Nasty Plot set up. Got to have some Fake Out along with your redirection support. So that's pretty cool. I like that. Then we've got we've got the Calyrex Ice Rider with Kyogre and Raging Bolt and Amoonguss. There's your core, right? Then you've got Rillaboom and Urshifu here to round things out here. No Iron Jugulus on this team, but again, just going strictly more for the balanced Trick Room idea, where I would imagine this Kyogre is relatively slow. Water Spouts plus Glacial Lance is a thing. Leech Seed, of course, can be a thing as well. Life Orb Raging Bolt is going to hurt a lot in Trick Room, of course. And then the double Grass Core of Rillaboom and Amoonguss here, pretty good. Again, gives you that Fake Out to be able to set up this Trick Room, the redirection support, the Spore Pressure, changing terrain against Miraidon, and then clicking Spore. Very useful idea. So yeah, some familiar stuff here. Then 16th place over here, top 16 here, right? Look at this one again with the Jump Bluff Tailwind idea, the Chlorophyll Abuser here with Koraidon and Shadow Rider, and there's the Glaring Wheezing like we spoke about earlier. So Poison Gas, okay, looking for that chip damage to get the Calyrex in position to clean things up. Iron Hands, of course, very, very good here. Look at the Imprisoned Calyrex Shadow Rider here, right? So again, hating the mirror matchup, right? So Imprison just makes it so that's useless. So you might see the occasional Imprison tech of choice there, right? Pretty cool. And then we get to some other pretty cool ideas here. First of all, Oliver, shout out to you, man. Reshiram 7-3. We're featuring a Reshiram team shortly here. I wish Oliver gave us the rental for this, otherwise we would do it too, but he only gave the paste. So maybe if we can DM Oliver, he's more than willing to give us the rental there, right? You gave the paste, maybe he'll be willing to let us try it out for a video, right? But anyway, Reshiram is one of those rising niche options that you can use. We saw this in the regional, right? Again, day 2 result here, day 2 result there. It's just super bulky, right? And Turbo Blaze is just such a really good ability, right? And people just forget about it, right? Just because it's just not a very common thing to have or use. But you can shut down a lot of Pokemon with that. And then you've got, look at this, the bulk on Reshiram, right? By the way, Dragonfire and the coverage that you have is actually relatively useful in a lot of different matchups, just because of the pressure that you can put on it. There's not a whole lot of resist to it either. This one doesn't have Earth Power, but you've got Blue Fairy and Heat Wave and Draco Meteor here with Screen Set. Reshiram can hit like a truck, man. Don't underestimate that damage. And look, you've got you still got screens with Calyrex Ice Rider, Rillaboom and Incin. Alright, sometimes you just can't even break through that, right? Just the Fake Out in the screens with the Calyrex Trick Room and Leech Seed, sometimes that can just beat you if you don't have an answer. And you might not even need the Reshiram in some cases, right? But nice idea here to be able to utilize this. Okay. Again, you know, Dragon Fire typing, again, neutral to Kyogre, right? And, you know, just being able to resist electric coverage too is also relatively nice. The Dragon typing, right? It just being able to, you know, again, the Fire, Water, Grass stuff, again, technically neutral to the water coverage there, but also electric too, right? So it's still very useful there. Don't sleep on Reshiram. I think you'll be very impressed if you do try it out yourself. A little bit of Dondozo in this meta, right? Isaac is still utilizing the Wheezing idea with the Shadow Rider Koraidon stuff here, so you can definitely play this way if you want. It's not a whole lot of checks at Dondozo right now, in all honesty, right? Just there's no haze, there's no clear smog, so it's just you have to play and have a way to deal with Dondozo, right? And unless the opponent is relatively experienced, there's not too much around in the meta at the moment to be able to deal with it. Now, that being said, obviously, it's not unbeatable, right? Again, you are limiting yourself if you do go with the Dondozo route, so just be aware of that. But if you pilot it well, you can just win a lot of games there. What else is standing out here? This is another unique team here, right? With Daniel Yu. So again, Kyogre, Ice Rider, but you've got Sinistcha here, right? So again, another redirector here with Rage Powder, Shadow Ball, Strength Sap here, Hospitality, good healing, especially with Leech Seed, right? And Rillaboom, Terrain Recovery. It's coaching Urshifu here. So I like this. This is pretty cool. I don't know if we necessarily need the Sinistcha there, but I can understand the use there. More Zamazenta Kyogre ideas here with Tornadus. Okay, and actually this is a pretty clear idea here. You've got Tornadus with Kyogre, right? Tonogre. Then you've got Zamazenta Wideguard. A Steel type in Rain is good. Chantpal works along with Kyogre and Zamazenta, right? Just because of the coverage that you can bring against Raging Bolts and Rillabooms for the Kyogre, and then blow up terrain with Ice Spinner. Then you've got Landorus, which does very well with Tornadus and Kyogre too, right? And you've got good synergy there with Sandstorm Storm. And, you know, just double Genie idea. Relatively good. And then, of course, Urshifu in the rain. So you've got your Rain Core here. And you don't even need, like, the Trick Room answer just because of the pressure that you put and the Wideguard support. So you're kind of chilling here. Okay, Urshifu doing a lot of damage in the rain. AV Ogre. So now you've got Thunder and Ice Beam coverage, right? Bolt Beam coverage. Very, very good for Kyogre. Pretty cool team. I actually kind of like it there. Then we've got this one here with Dragonite. You haven't seen Dragonite in a hot minute, but this is the Choice Band D-Knight with Chantpal, right? So Powknight still making an appearance in a dual restricted format here. You've got Sneasler here with the Unburdened Electric Seed idea. Again, going to be the fastest thing in the meta. Dire Claw, Throat Chop, Close Combat. Interesting set there. But again, still makes sense. You've got Zamazenta and Miraidon here yet again with the AV Snarl set, Chantpal, like we said earlier. And then there is the Volcarona with the Tailwind support. I thought it might be the D-Knight there for a second with Tailwind, but it is the Volcarona. Tailwind, Rage Powder, and Struggle Pud. Good supportive set. Rocky Helmet. I would imagine that's like a bold Volcarona. Who knows? What else is like also pretty cool here? How about Gustavo here? Miraidon, Calyrex, Ice Rider with the Whimsicott here. Actually, this is relatively standard. We've seen this from some of the earlier builds here. This is AV Instant, Roar, Furrygraph there. Coaching Choice Band Urshifu. Okay, pretty cool. What else we've got here that also stands out? How about this Indeedee here? So, again, Shadow Rider, Zamazenta, Indeedee coming here for terrain control. You still got Smeargle here. But, again, understand that this is not expanding force, right? Just because you don't want to subject yourself to being completely walled out by Wideguard. It's just better to have a single target move in this case with Psychic. And then just boost that damage with the terrain if you have to. But this is more for your Miraidon matchup, okay? And, you know, Baton Pass is a kind of a pretty cool tech. We saw this already, you know, in the previous our official regional there. You can just, you know, pass your special defense boost to Zamazenta, and it's just kind of chilling from there, right? So, nice idea there. More Wheezing stuff there from Francesco, and more Lunala, Miraidon, and Ursaluna stuff there. So, overall, a lot of this is just picking up where we left off from the previous regional. You know, we saw some interesting teams here, right? But honestly, it hasn't been anything we haven't really seen yet. People are still trying different ideas, right? Otherwise, you're still seeing a lot of the more same consistent stuff that we saw the last couple of weeks or so. We'll have to see what happens as we move forward here, right? But, you know, people are definitely going to be paying attention to what's going on in Japan for sure, right? Because sometimes what you'll do is you'll take one of those teams from Japan, and maybe you just tweak a slot or two, and then just roll it out for your best of 3 adventures, right? And I would expect people to more or less do the same thing here, right? And don't forget, there is another VR challenge this weekend, right? So if you need more regulation-I practice, and if you want to see what more people are running, again, be sure to join that. I would imagine it would be a similar turnout. You're going to have a prize pool. You're going to have like 200 plus players, and we're going to get more meta development, right? And we're going to get another Clover Bells video talking about the recap, right? So we'll have to see. Like, we're going to see more Smeargle stuff. What else are people willing to explore at this point in regulation-I? Because we are heading into July. Okay, we still got that full month there. And then, of course, August is the big month for the World Championships, right? So what's coming next on the channel, you know, we're still gonna feature a couple more teams from NAIC, a couple more teams also from Japan Nats, maybe even some of our own rentals that we still haven't yet featured, right? But we'll see. I want to feature a couple of Reshiram teams, right? I have one. And then, of course, a Terapagos team that I feel like we've neglected for quite a bit here. We do have a Terapagos team that we have to feature as well. All right, but that's it for now, folks. If you are interested in coaching on the channel, again, we've got very, very cheap rates here. Again, tier 3 is just $10, full team building session with us. So if you're interested in building a squad with learning how to do EVs, learning how to optimize them, learning matchups, learning how to, you know, counter your opponent, or learning how to make reads and whatnot, we do all of that here with the tier 3 and the tier 4 sub, where we can actually look at your gameplay and just give you feedback. So this way you can also become a better battler along with a better team builder, right? And if you're interested in that, take a look at the video description below. The link will take you to the tier perk, and then you can join the channel with the tier 3 or the tier 4 sub. Or if you look in the pinned comment section, you can join that way as well. It's going to be the same link either way. You can join the Discord for free. Got over 1,000 members there. We're constantly growing every day. We got a lot of people in the community there. And if you need someone to spar against, we always got people there. They can practice against some very, very good players, especially, right? So anyway, that's it for now. We'll be back with another video in the next one. Peace out and have a good one.